Hello, Elzette Fritz. Hello, hello.
Hello, Markus.
So exciting to be in the position of speaking to each other in this very personal way and knowing that so many people all over the planet who are checking into Expressive Arts Without Borders and reading Leela magazine will sort of get to sort of listen into our conversation. So I've been aware of you and what you do for many years, and so happy that it's sort of coming to this point.
You know, Markus, it's amazing what technology has enabled us to do in terms of bringing closeness where there's distance.
Yes.
And allowing people to listen in when they're even not present.
Yes. Yes, it's a whole other kind of intimacy. You know, sort of like one of the positive things of technology. So I'm always so interested in the connection between meaning and purpose. And I find that what you do and how you do it, both as a human being and as a therapist and as an artist, so meaningful. And it also, that for me is what's primary, that we're doing something meaningful. And secondly, it serves a purpose that has something to do with enriching our everyday lives. I know that you reflected back to me something from my conversation that was on Expressive Arts Without Borders with Ashkan Ambarzadeh about the movement from from the extraordinary. Well, can you say what that quote is? That might be a good springboard for where we want to go today.
Yes, I'd love to share that. The message that you communicated, it really struck me. So your message was, in expressive arts, we do not just want to go into a bubble to do something extraordinary, rather to awaken our senses through the extraordinary in art making and go back to the ordinary in an unordinary way because of heightened sensitivity to what is moving within us, between us, and a sense of around us.
And I have found that what you do and how you do it is exactly that. And so I'm hoping to share with people today your approach to photography and how it lands in this work we're calling expressive arts and the difference it's making in your life. And those of us who've been seeing your work through the Expressive Arts Without Borders Facebook page just find this continuing delight in your perspective. So can you say a little bit about your work with photography? Because I think many of the people who are involved with Expressive Arts Without Borders are interested in photography.
So I'm going to start just on the topic of photography and how it's actually helped me when things for me feel rather overwhelming. And I look around me to see, but what is going to enable me to, in that moment, find something that can make me feel present and at the same time manage what's around me in a contained manner. And so I'm always open to look around, and I've never been in a position where I didn't find something that was intriguing. So whether it is a piece of bark on a tree, or a spider hidden in a flower, or light reflecting through a dandelion, And then just being curious how I would be able to capture that. And in that moment, what it does, it allows and enables me to take a deeper breath. And then when I look up at life again, I look at it differently.
It's like creating a frame for the extraordinary to have the moment, an extraordinary moment, and the manner with which you respond to the flower or to the spider, how you're responding takes us to this larger place of an extraordinary moment. And my sense is what makes it therapeutic, if you will, is that how you're being in those extraordinary moments affects then how you're being in the rest of your day, going back to an ordinary life, doing the things you need to do in an unordinary way because of the heightening of your senses, your sensitivity to the moment, and the quality of your presence. Beautiful.
I firmly believe, and it's something that was reaffirmed when I met you, that if we can connect with what is playful, and we can look at the world with a sense of amazement, then the world becomes a softer and a gentler place. And so when you talk about frame and being curious as to when I hold the phone, because I take photos with my phone, if I hold it this way, what am I going to capture? And if I hold it that way, will it be different? And the message in that is how we look at things can change how we experience it.
Exactly. And your capacity for delighting in what you're beholding, I think it's with the work you do, it's the photography captures so what I would call the phenomenon of beholding. And you created a presentation for today that I think what I'd like to do is share it now to give people a glimpse into the work you've been doing with bubbles. I wonder if you want to say something about your work with bubbles and photography before I start the presentation, and maybe you'll narrate during the presentation to elucidate what we're seeing.
So yes, bubbles literally is children's blow bubbles. When people see some of my photos, they think I superimposed a bubble into a photo. And what they don't realize is I go outside and I blow children's bubbles. And initially it started because I sent someone an image that I downloaded from Pinterest, and the person's response was, "That's beautiful. Surely you didn't create that." And there was a part inside of me that said, I'm going to try and create something like that. And I started blowing bubbles and just being curious what would happen and where would it land, and is it possible to take a photo of a children's bubble landing somewhere? And then I was surprised because it is possible. And then I've learned a couple of interesting things whilst blowing bubbles, and where they land and how they land, and depending on how you position the frame. Mm.
And the intimacy in your response in the quality of the photograph gives us a sense of the quality of the moment. Yeah, it's interesting, like so many levels
Yes.
of delight, you know. All right, so
It awakens for me a playfulness.
yes, and yeah, we get that in the photograph. All right, let's see if I can do a screen share and say can get this right, so I can do a screen share. And here we go.
Ah, there we go. It's like one of the oldest silent movies. So that was a photo of a heart in clouds. And initially I took photos of things around me that caught my eye. So often I like the minute and to be curious what happens when it opens up and you move closer. And so this is where I dare to start taking photos of bubbles landing on flowers and what happens when they land on thorns and realizing they don't pop. And then being curious when there's more than one bubble and how light can reflect and we move closer and you see different aspects and rainbows captured. And this was specifically delightful is where you can see yourself in the bubble and sometimes we all need a safe space inside. And at the same time, sometimes something in the bubble can be a bit scary. And just being open to how am I going to be surprised at what the image is going to tell me and the story. And so sometimes bubbles overlap and there's narratives within stories. And to be curious at the different narratives within a story, there's different versions. And the same bubble can change colors. If you just wait a couple of seconds as emotions change from moment to moment. It reminds me a little bit of Linda Wooster's songs.
Yes, moment to
And
moment.
positioning yourself differently gives you different colors. And life is just very fleeting, so capture it in the moment. And this was a bubble that landed on a spider's web and it just hung by one spider's thread, which reminded me there can also be strength in hanging on.
From Alberta.
And just taking a nice deep breath with a variety of bubbles and colors and shapes and patterns. And I watched the movie Invisible Friends. And in that movie, I found my invisible friend, which was Aquafina. I never knew I actually had an invisible friend until I watched the movie. And Aquafina is a bubble. So I reunited with an invisible friend I never knew I had. I thought it might be wonderful for people to, specifically adults, to be curious about their own invisible friends.
Yes. The invisible within us, between us and around us, for me is kind of it's our responsibility to kind of sense the formless world, the potential, and give it form. It seems like that's the role of the arts for me, is to sense what precedes form, what that's already been created, and to participate in sort of this wonder and magic that we sense that precedes form, to this space of potential and wonder within us and between us and around us. And in your photography, for me, what happens is because there's so much emphasis on nature and so much engagement between me and the image, that it awakens something within me, something like wonder or awe. And I think the best we can hope for is to, in a moment, experience some lively movement within, between, and around at the same moment. And I think your creativity is so much about responding to that moment where something is moving within you and between you and what you're seeing and what's around you. And it's like you're inviting us into this glorious magical moment, eh?
You know, Marcus, you sometimes refer to holding mortality and what precedes mortality, what is beyond mortality. And so when we can connect with what delights, I think that is when we connect with what is beyond mortality. And more so when we can share it with someone else.
Yes, to transcend this everyday life, but so in a way very concrete, and go to these levels, what we may call the beyond, these sort of transcendent moments, transcend and include our bodily response, our heart's response, our feet on the ground. So this phenomenon of transcend and include, again, is very much reflected in your photography, sort of transcending your limitations, transcending just, you know, a person in a body walking in the woods and doing this childlike play with bubbles, transcending and including, sort of like transcending our humanness and going to this incredibly magical place of incredible spirit, and including our humanness, the tenderness of our humanness, and this larger place of the beingness of what we are. What we are is just so magical. And I'm finding that the work you're doing is kind of like, how do we massage what we are more fully into who we are? How do we, as incredible, delightful beings, how do we massage that into our humanness?
Yes, it's that sense of the outside and the inside, and the small and the vast. And I think that's why I really enjoy the bubbles, because they reflect many things on many levels, and people interpret them and take what soothes or what inspires or enlightens.
Soothes, inspires, and enlightens. Nice recipe for wellness.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to carve out some time. My phone rang and I let my wife get it, and then it said, you know, that it was a phone call in from Alberta. So now people know I'm in Alberta, Canada. And tell folks where you are right now.
I'm in Johannesburg in South Africa, in what we term as being winter, round about sometimes 7 degrees.
Mm-hmm. There's a metaphor there somewhere about how where we are physically is very different, but where we are in our hearts is very much the same. This work of Expressive Arts Without Borders, I think, is to find the one heart and celebrate the one heart. art making, and the right use of the intellect for me is to give thought to what we know in our hearts we value, and for us to have conversations like this in order to give thought to what we know matters, like delight, the importance of how we can have such an extraordinary moment of delight, and that, again, within the frame of the expressive arts work, it begins with that moment, but it's a springboard for going back to ordinary lives in an unordinary way because of the awakening of our capacity for delightful response. And when things are really challenging, it's not that the difficulty is beautiful, but how we can respond can be beautiful, right?
Yes. So I think that is what really, for me, is heartwarming, is the platform that's been created through Expressive Arts Without Borders, is how we can touch each other, and differences fall away.
Mm. Yes. Mm.
Mm.
Well, as a member of the Expressive Arts Without Borders leadership group, I am grateful to be able to see you every month, and I'm glad that we took some time to give folks a little glimpse into how you play, a little bit about how you think about the role of play and delight in the work of expressive arts, which is, for me, the work of expressive arts is both about coming home and about how to step into the world without losing that resonance with being home. So I think you and what's reflected in your work certainly are great examples of how do we take care of where we're coming from, and how do we move on this planet with an awareness of the incredible responsibility that we have to respond with care and sensitivity. So any last words from you before we say goodbye for now?
I've got great appreciation for the manner. Yeah. I think for now, I'm going to not say too much. I'm just going to say thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, what's juicier than gratitude for what's sustainable in our lives? I'm grateful to you as well, Elzette. We'll see you soon. Okay, bye for now.